be people developing the questions in order to learn, but that's not so. That's not what they're doing. They develop those particular questions in order to create a fight because they're angry because the information is not correlating with what they believe. So what I had suggested, if you want to start trying to understand what's going on about civilization, was to get this series of books. This is the first book in the series. Now, sometimes when we're at the little joint over there, you know, and people make certain statements that they'll make, then you know I'll say something. Because everyone always wants to raise their hands about how they read Malcolm, right? And every time we're in some type of group and a lot of people there, and we get to talk about Malcolm X. And so, you know, I always ask the question, well, how many people read the so-called book, you know, Alex Haley's book that was supposed to be written about Malcolm? You watched the movie too, also, about Spike Lee, right? Yes. And then I always ask the question, did you read the book? And everybody raises their hands, they all read Malcolm. And so then I'll ask the question, well, how many of you bothered to read the books that the book said that Malcolm had read? Now all of a sudden nobody's raising their hands. But wait a minute, I thought you said you read the book. If you read the book and it mentioned in the book some books that Malcolm read, why didn't you go read them? Since y'all love Malcolm, right? Right? But they love Malcolm, but they won't even bother to open up a dictionary. Well, I remember when I first read, right after Haley and the other brother that he was working with, had actually put that together, and I read it for the first time, and it said in there, it gave a name besides H.G. Wells, because it mentioned H.G. Wells.
Outline of history.
But I had already read that. But it mentioned Will and Ariel Durant. See that right there, Will Durant. Right? And it mentioned Will and Ariel Durant. And it mentioned the story of civilization. I hurried up and went to the library. I wanted to know what they had written. And I read the whole volume.
11
books. All the books of that size. All right? But wait a minute now. This is just an introduction to a particular thought about civilization. Isn't that weird? People want to always talk about civilization and being civilized. But you'll ask them, well, give me some information about it. And they have nothing to refer to. In other words, where did they get the information about civilization?
They don't.
Isn't it weird? Everybody always tells me how great civilization is. Where did they get the information from?
Black, I have never once asked that question, and nobody ever answered it. What does civilization and civilized mean?
Well, I remember when you asked me, I think I told you something.
Right on. We thought you wrote that other book.
No, I didn't write it. But I know this. If we want to know something about civilization, and if we say we live in civilization and civilization is a good thing, we would just do some research, wouldn't we? How come we haven't done it? I'm just curious. If civilization is such a great thing, why haven't we researched it?
Why don't you be civil with one another? I hear that all the time.
And then we don't have a clue to what language, how language actually works. So we're just repeating something we heard from somebody else. We haven't bothered to do any work. This is just the first book. What does the cover say? What does it say? On the first book now, what does it say?
The story of civilization, our Oriental heritage.
Our Oriental heritage. Okay, so what does it start out talking about since it's talking about our Oriental heritage?
Dealing with Asia?
No, sir.
Okay.
Hold on. Look at the pictures on the cover.
Oh, okay.
Tell me where the pictures come from.
Egypt.
You're saying one of the pictures comes out of Egypt, and one of the pictures comes out of where, do you think, maybe? Maybe it comes out of where? India?
Yes.
India, it might be Buddha. Yeah, I got that. But now, most of what it starts talking about when it's talking about our Oriental heritage, when it's talking about Christianity, it's talking about Africa. Because that's where the Orient is. What? The Orient? No. No, Oriental people, Oriental thought, culture. But see, what we were taught in school is that Oriental, that's why he looked at me so crazily, we were taught that Oriental means that you come out of where?
Asia.
China.
China, yeah.
And they're Orientals, and so-called white people are Occidentals.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And y'all not even on the planet. It's weird stuff. It's weird, but here's what's really weird. In my class down at the University of Tennessee the other day, I asked the children, tell me where the Middle East is. What do you think they said? Come on, Hotel, what did they say? Some said Iraq, Israel, what else? Saudi Arabia, Egypt. Okay, no problem. That's what they were saying. Do you agree with them? Where do you think the Middle East is? Well, someone said no, so I'm just waiting. Hold on. Because you about to sound like you was in my class or something. What do you mean there is no Middle East? What you talking about?
It was created.
Where? How? Why? Everything was created.
Was it the British?
What about the British?
I mean what's that? The British East Africa. I'm sorry.
The British East India Company? Hold on, son. See, what's going to happen is you're going to take bits and pieces of information and try to put it together, and that's not getting you anywhere. What we got to do, we got to know.
Right.
All right? So it's the Middle East, right? When did it come into existence, this Middle East? Don't know. This is that strange.
That's like
We run around always talking about the Middle East, but don't know when it came into existence. Let me tell you what was going on when I was growing up. They were always talking about the Near East,
Far East.
the Middle East, and the Far East. You remember that? What were they talking about when they were talking about the Far East?
Japan,
China. Okay, good. What did they call China in some of the older works that have been put together before they started calling it China? Cathay. So if you go in the dictionary and you start unraveling China, you'll come across the term Cathay. All right? Now, this is weird. Once upon a time, I ran into some people that told me that the Greeks stole our history. They stole all the information from Africa. You ever heard that? You have heard that. Well, whoever's saying that out of their mouths does not care about those babies. Why are they saying it out of their mouths? Come on, tell me. The Greeks stole our history. The Greeks stole our information. Why are they saying that? Someone suggested it to them, and now they're repeating the suggestion, and now it's going on and on and on. And what you have is a dumb lie that everybody's going to make be truth. But when you truth, what you find out is, wait a minute, that's a lie. And boy, when you see a lie, you ought to try to recognize it. But most of us will not recognize a lie. You know why? Because we don't want to look upon the naked truth. Because we've been taught not to look upon anything that's naked.
Why would it be our history if the Greeks stole it, took it, evolved it?
I don't know why. I don't have any clue. First of all, if I'm going to claim something to be my history comes out of Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Chicago, Illinois. I don't know nothing about this other stuff that everybody talking about, huh?
No breeding farms?
What?
No breeding farms?
No, my history don't come off a breeding farm. Not mine. No. The people whose history come off the breeding farms, they became civil writers. Yeah. The ones that came off the breeding farms, they're the ones that are the champions of slaves. And their children are descendants of slaves. I don't allow the children that I work with that study with me to talk with them. And I teach those children, as soon as you got somebody trying to tell you something about you, the descendant of a slave, you get up and get away from their presence because they don't care about you. Anybody that does that does not care about you. If they are trying to get you to think something about, well, see, slaves were black people's, you know, and then all of a sudden, whenever you hear the word slave, what do you see? What do the children see in their heads?
Somebody look like that.
Something.
What they call somebody black. Ain't that something? You know who I really appreciate that I did have, you know, at least some relativity to growing up to some degree? His name was Father Divine. You know, and he used to really, matter of fact, I even got some stories about Noble Drew Ali before he was, they think, was murdered maybe. And what he was trying to say, and other brothers, what they were really trying to get across. Because they wanted these children to understand that they're more than anybody's color. But don't get me wrong, I appreciate the young brothers who during my years came along and they said, I'm black and I'm proud. And they actually, no, who sung that song? Who was that?
That was James Brown.
That was James, huh? I'm black and I'm proud. And James had everybody singing it. But prior to James Brown coming out with that song, and what was her name?
Abby Lincoln.
Abby Lincoln and
Nikki Giovanni.
Nikki Giovanni and who
Stokely
else?
Carmichael.
Wait a minute, prior to that,
Richard.
I remember when you would call somebody black and get your ass beat. That's what I remember.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I remember this.
There wasn't nothing to play with.
You know, and then I never understood what's going on now all of a sudden. All these new black folks. And these new black folks, they African Americans. I've been trying to figure that one out.
You mean the new Nazis?
The new Nazis. No, new Nazis are still black people. The Nazis on the corners, they black people.
African Americans hate the black folks.
African Americans hate everybody.
African Americans are morphed Negro.
A morphed slave. Yeah, that's a state Negro. What the brothers with the teepees, what they call a state Negro?
Wachina.
Wachina. You know what Wachina is, don't you? You don't know what a Wachina is?
I remember you mentioned it in the class.
I didn't mention it. I bet you a dime to a dollar. I have never mentioned the Wachina. But I know the term, I know where it came from. I know what they were talking about. And no, my folks, that I'm relative to, they did not come out of those areas. You know, those farms in Kentucky, and Angola, and Natchez.
Alabama.
That's right. You see, that's where most of y'all come from.
Most of them.
Most of y'all come from. They always tell, I came from Africa, and I ask them where. They don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. But then I can tell them exactly where that farm is in Kentucky that they came off of. You know how I know where that farm is? I bothered to get in a car and drive to Kentucky so I could see those farms. You know what they are? Now they breed horses. Thoroughbreds. They run them in the Kentucky Derby. And you can actually see those farms. And you can trace those farms back and find out what those farms were breeding once upon a time. But you notice how nobody ever talks about that. They always talk about where they come from. They come from what? Africa. And then I try to, I'm scratching, I'm trying to figure out what everybody talking about. They come from Africa. Where? Where were they brought from in Africa? These people, oh, they were people, huh? They got kidnapped. People got kidnapped. People, not slaves. People got kidnapped off the continent. Where? From where?
The interior.
Well, those were the people getting kidnapped by the people on the coast.
Yeah.
In other words, white folks didn't go into Africa. and kidnapped nobody. They went to the coast and they bought people. But the people who had actually kidnapped people from the interior, they were the ones in Ghana telling you to come on over, we're going to give you some land. And you take your ass over there. And
Now when you go, they welcome you and they say, never again. But they're the ones that did it to your people.
And
Yeah,
make
but that's the
sure
purpose of them doing it, though.
What?
They're giving the land right now.
the person that's giving land is what?
No, I think what he's talking about, they said they got land in Ghana now.
Who? That's right.
They want us to go over there and,
If y'all come over, they say they're gonna give y'all land as repayment
yeah.
for actually what happened on the Ghanaian coast, relative to the enslavement of African people. And they are so, I'm sorry that it happened to you, and y'all running over there talking about how we all brothers.
Yo, you
Ain't that
speak
some
to them when they
nonsense?
get there.
Wait a minute, they don't speak to each other here. You know, that girl asked me, well, Mr. Black, what should we call ourselves? You know what I told her? Nigga, call yourself what you been calling yourself. What you worried about? What you gonna call yourself now for all of a sudden? What you been calling yourself? Sammy, hey, I'm trying to get these kids to recognize who they are and where they're from. And it's not from any land anywhere on this planet. Who they are. If they really want to be who they are. If we're relative to, like some people are saying, telling me that they're relative to ancient Egyptians. Okay, how? Which time period? Which dynasty? Who was running what where? Was it the upper kingdom, the lower kingdom, or the middle kingdom? Who were the different people in each one of these areas of Egypt? Did you see Egypt wasn't one place? It was 3 different places.
Dr. Black,
Yes.
you said something a few minutes ago. If they really want to know who they are and where they come from, it's not of this planet. What are you saying?
What am I saying? That's a good question. Now, you know what you really ought to do since the answer is in the question? Since the answer is in the question, you know what you really should do? You should do maybe what I'm asking y'all to do sometime, and really try to research and learn how to research and figure this out so you can find that answer. Because now, you know, I can stand up here and actually tell you what it is that you think I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I could tell it to you, and then I'd sound like I was wearing a bow tie or something.
But you know what?
I'm not wearing a bow tie and I ain't selling bean pies.
Actually, for me, when I looked up the 2 words that inspired that thought, that ignited that thought,
Which 2 words are we talking about now?
me and I.
Oh,
And then I looked up self.
wait a minute. He's giving you some clues. I didn't ask him to give you any clues, but for some reason, he thinks he should actually help you.
I looked up me and that.
And what did you find when you looked up me?
Me is the subject of I.
Oh, wait a minute. I think you're not looking correctly. Then that means you need to keep looking over and over and over again until you know what it says and understand what it's talking about. You ever looked at me? You got a dictionary in front of you? If there's somebody have a dictionary he can use.
Yes.
Please, let him use your dictionary. You need a dictionary?
No.
You know what me is, right?
It's an object pronoun.
Say it again.
It's an
You're
object
right.
pronoun.
She's right. Objective case of what?
I.
Now, this is weird. Where did you go to
I's in
school?
the nominative case.
Where did you go to school? You must have gone to a color school.
Yeah.
Did you go to a color
I went
school?
to Hamilton High School and
Oh,
West.
back when it was colored.
Oh,
Back then,
it's still colored.
No, it ain't. I don't know what it is now. Wait, look. Did y'all hear what this young lady said? Me is the objective case of I. That's what you're going to find in your dictionary. That's right. But see what's happening now? These kids are graduating from school. They don't know objective case pronouns and subjective case pronouns. They don't know the difference. They don't have a clue.
Right.
Now, you know what? Someone tells me all the time, well, see, Brother Black, that ain't important. Our kids don't need to know this. But I'm suggesting to you, to answer your question, Shante, And the answer is in the question. You need to understand what that is saying to you when you look up me. What does it say?
It says the objective case of pronoun I.
Good. The objective case. So that means that some of the pronouns are in objective and some are in subjective. And then you have a few of them that are both object and subject. Now, what's the object of you?
What's the object of me?
Yeah.
I?
No. What's the object of you?
You.
The fish, the body.
Okay, good. So that's the object that I can touch, right?
Right.
What's the subject of you?
So they're what you can't touch.
So, that which I can't touch, can I see it?
No.
I can see the me, I can see the body, I can see the object, I can see that the eye is in, right? Then why did you give the color of the thing inside of you the color that they gave you outside of you?
That's right. Where does it come from?
Right?
Are you saying, in essence, you might get strange in a strange land?
Oh, I know he's a stranger in a strange land, and your children are even stranger than you are. Because once you lose your way, oh, it's hard to get back. You know what you should do when you lose your way? You should start thinking like, maybe I'm in a maze.
Amen.
You know what a maze is,
Yeah.
right?
A maze.
Yeah. And maybe if I want to get out of the maze, maybe I should have balls or string with me or something. And maybe what I might want to do is take some and mark every time I come to a turn. And just mark it. And let my string out. And when I get far enough in this maze, maybe I want to find my way back out. So I start following the string, right? And I check that mark I've been making. And if the mark ain't right, that I made the right way, I know this is not the way to go.
Yeah.
Can you follow me? What
Well,
I'm saying?
would that hold true? For instance, if you are mainstreaming study, like it's pointed out to us, and say, for instance, a subject is introduced and it's suggested, look, that's something to learn something about, but if you go in there too deep, you're going to get stuck.
Could.
So you need to take you some string in there
Definitely.
to get out.
Definitely.
So if I get stuck in this thing about I am from Africa,
Now you may be stuck in a maze. And you might be trapped in a ball of confusion. Now just maybe the best way to learn is to get out before you go back in. See, because what you're trying to learn how to do is you're trying to learn how to get through the confusion.
Yeah.
And you've got to go in over and over and over again until you finally find your way through this maze. And then you have to learn how to go in and out like it's second nature. Blindfolded.
I just did with
You follow me? But if we are trusting everybody, and we depending on everybody to take us through this, you might run across some folks that know they got you trapped in a maze.
Yeah.
And you're going to feed them because you're really trying to get through here, and you think they care about you. And so you constantly feeding them because they're supposed to be going to take you through here. And the best thing for them to do to keep on eating is to keep you trapped.
Civil rights.
It's just something. I still didn't figure that one out. That was one of the worst plans of the slave that I've ever seen. Well, I don't know, it might have been a good plan. Because, see, slaves wanted to stay slaves. Why did you look like that? You didn't know that? You didn't know slaves wanted to stay slaves? Well, let me ask you a question then. Let me ask you a question. One day, somebody said, okay,
You got some chunks.
y'all free. Y'all can go. Right?
Yeah.
Open up the gate, right?
Open up the gate.
So they all got up one morning and walked out the gate.
Let's go, boy.
Let's go. And they got on down the road.
You got that eat?
And it got dark.
Well, we're
Got late. Dark out there, right?
Cold.
Cold.
sounds.
Tired. So let me ask y'all a question. How many folks turned around, went back in the gate, and closed the gate? Come on, I'm just curious. How many did that?
Large number.
Large number did that. And they said they wasn't being treated fair. You ain't treating me right. And so they had to fight for a long time in order to get treated right. Isn't that right?
What do you mean by treated right?
I don't know, wanted some civil rights.
Oh, I got you on that.
Well, that's, if you get some civil rights, you expect to get treated right, right?
But they didn't get no civil rights.
Silver rights? No.
Silver.
So let's get this straight now. The rights that they got, the civil rights that they got, starts with the letter C.
Yeah.
The civil rights that the people I'm relative to was after starts with the letter S. Now C and S are interchangeable, they sound alike, and sometimes if you're not careful, you'll place a C where it should have been an S.
So, in essence, if you get civil rights, you get the rights of the city. If you get the rights
Now,
of
if
the
you
city,
get civil rights, I'll bet you a dime to a dollar you'll get a hamburger.
yeah,
I bet that's all you're gonna get. Is you're gonna get the right to eat a hamburger next to somebody.
accommodation.
Accommodations, that's all you're gonna get. That's right. That's right. You get the right for someone to tell you you can spend your money there.
Well,
I'll tell you some other rights you're gonna get. You're gonna get the right to close down all of your
you
hospitals.
sure are. Your insurance company.
And then, guess what's gonna happen? Companies that just a few years ago were building cars are gonna become the largest insurance companies in the United States. And the way that happened, that was
What
your
was the name of that
infrastructure.
company?
Humana.
Humana.
Humana developed out of what?
Hold on, I'm gonna tell you the name of the car. Wait a minute.
The car was the Kaiser.
Kaiser, that was it.
Don't y'all remember the car? Now, Kaiser is what?
Humana.
Kaiser Permanente.
Permanente, yeah.
That's right. Same company. That's all you had to trace it. I know, well, I'm probably just making all this up.
No, I looked at it.
Oh, you looked it up. Good. I want y'all all to look up everything I say out of my mouth. Please. And whatever you find that I'm wrong about, please come back and show me where I'm wrong.
Ms. Black.
And guess what you're doing for me? You're helping me to know something that I didn't know. If you can show me where I didn't know it in a particular way, now I can know it in a correct way, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Black.
Yes.
You know, the impact of, and I've been looking at this a while, but the impact of what happened with this thing that they've labeled integration, and to hear you state often about how people of color gave away all their institutions, just walked away from them, and now when they need them so bad.
Well, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. Well, you know they had to walk away because they didn't get good food in their restaurants. The dry cleaners was not cleaning their clothes properly, even though I could get my clothes cleaned in 1 hour. You know, because I think Scotty's was the first 1 hour cleaner in Chicago. And Scotty's was over on South Park, you know. And this is weird because the people that weren't really cleaning clothes and stuff, you know, everybody takes their clothes to those people now. You know, because you know what happened? Y'all don't have any dry cleaners anymore. And so you don't have any restaurants, you don't have any hospitals, you don't have any schools.
Boarding home.
You don't have what?
Boarding room home.
You don't have any hotels. Wait a minute, now your whole house is a museum. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Your hotel, what's that, mispronounce that? Your hotel became a motel that's a museum now, right? I think I mispronounced it at
It was
first.
a short time house.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay. But what I'm suggesting is your houses should have been your main structures right now. You see, if you had actually paid attention, instead of developing a monument to mediocrity, you would have something over there in that area right now that would look like Holiday Inn Select, only it would be where older people could actually live when they get to be older, and they wouldn't be living in tall buildings on Danny Thomas